make a point, you don't have to ask a question, but if you do want to make a question, please be clear. And if you could make your points quite brief and to the point, I'd be grateful, because we've got lots of people who want to give everybody a chance to speak. And also, I'd encourage you to ask questions of our other panellists. We've got Fred Harrison, and we've also got Peter Smith here, Conservationist. So yeah, please, if you could choose somebody from the floor, that would be great.
Paul Nicholson, Taxpayers Against Poverty. Can I just add to the discussions the fate of a council house tenant I'm currently trying to help, because he owns no land, he owns nothing at all. He was sanctioned for turning up on the wrong day for a work-related interview. He had depression for some time, and the result of the sanction was he had a breakdown and had psychotherapy for 13 weeks. Meanwhile, the sanctioned computer automatically connects up with the local authority computer, and it therefore stopped his rent, his housing benefit, and stopped his council tax benefit. If I were going to, and I'm a supporter of land value tax, I would abolish I'd abolish council tax, I'd abolish business rates, and I'd abolish the stamp duty. Meanwhile, I came into this case about 2 weeks ago, and at that moment, the council was threatening him that if he didn't pay £100 down immediately and £25 a week, he would, in fact, they would take him to court and evict him. His income is actually £58 a week, so the £25 a week was impossible. It's £20 less than it should be because the JSA at the moment for a single adult is £72.40. He's lucky he didn't have a spare bedroom because he'd be paying £24 a week, perhaps for the spare bedroom. So do please bear in mind that there are absolutely deprived people out there, not just deprived, but being forced below reasonable standard of living, in fact, forced into food banks and so on.
Thank you. So yeah, if we could take a few more points from other people, that would be great, and then I'll let the panel respond.
Thank you. In terms of political economy, I was at the World War I, not celebration, but discussion by Stop the War on Saturday. I'm surprised that the connection with war and our system has not been mentioned, because it's deeply connected. We've had 17 crashes since the rise of this beast, modern capitalism, and each time when you go through this downturn, it leads to war. And people from my community globally have been targeted deliberately in this country and globally, the Muslim community. They're not just a minority, and it will backfire. So I think we need to realize, we need to really understand. I think that's the main thing I want to say. We need to unmask what we're dealing with. The very fact the panel didn't even make the connection with war is a bit myopic. And also, I'm very concerned that the word bankers' government wasn't mentioned. If we're going to deal with the beast, we need to say what we're dealing with. Unmask a bankers' government and an economic profession and media which is prostitutes and sold out. And finally, people talk about Ebola. I work in the business world. I'm shocked at how the Ebola of trust is breaking down. You can't trust people in business now. I mean, there's a breakdown of trust out there.
Thank you.
So I'm very concerned with these things, and I'd like the panel maybe to share some thoughts on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'd just really like to urge women in the audience to put your hands up and say something. It's like these events always seem to be so, yeah. Okay, just hang on. Microphone.
Yeah. Sorry, I just don't know who Fred is and how he fits into the whole.
Okay, let me explain, if I may. It's time to stir things up a little bit, so I'll explain what my function is, okay? My function is to change the course of history. Why is it 350 years later we are still holding Putney debates? Don't you think the people in the original debates would be disgusted with the fact that we're still here talking about the issues that we apparently can't control. There's something fundamentally wrong about the way we go about trying to change the course of history. If I may just very quickly offer you two assertions, and I don't have the time to go into any detail, okay? I'm hoping that in the new year we can convene again here and go into greater detail. We need a new narrative. The present way of viewing the world, conducting our analysis, of prescribing action, is not fit for purpose. There is nothing in the realm of public discussion today, anywhere, without exception, and that includes my efforts over the last 40 years, that is remotely connected with reality such that we can get the kind of change that the people who originally met in the Putney debates and the people who are meeting now actually want. There's a disconnect between the narrative and reality. You have to bear in mind that narratives, the way we talk about and view the world, shapes the strategies that produces the results. Well, we are complaining, whinging on and on and on about the results, poverty, unaffordable housing, and so on. That must mean we are not viewing the world in a way that enables us to formulate action that delivers the results. And that, unfortunately, does include the Occupy movement. The Occupy movement has done a huge amount of homework in the last 2-3 years. Clive Menzies has chaired a working group that has actually identified the pillars of the change we need. But having said that, the way we articulate the story about what is wrong with our society is not fit for purpose. So it will not mobilize people on a sufficient scale to implement the change. So it doesn't matter how many times you occupy Parliament Square and how well you fill it, the people with the power know that as long as you don't have that narrative, they're going to stay in control. We have been we find ourselves in the middle of a window of opportunity that began in 2008. It closes in 5 years from now. 5 years is all that we've got left to find the narrative that resonates with the majority of people in Britain, so that in the election of 2020 we return the people who will institute the change. Right now we will not succeed if we carry on talking in the way that we do, worrying about the detail of specific problems, like the poor people who can't afford the bedroom tax and so on, and distracting ourselves from the essence of the problem which causes all these problems. That's the problem. We don't get down... Pardon?
You mean greed?
No, I don't mean greed, because greed is good, right? We need to boil the problems down to a story that captures not the 1%. The story about the 99 versus the 1% was a gift to the bankers and the rest who wanted to consolidate power in their hands. We walked right into the trap, and that narrative, the 99 versus the 1%, is now enshrined in the literature and the thick books. Mr. Piketty has this. He's against the 1%. There are 2 pages in that book, and it's this thick, that says there's something called the mystery of rent. There's a scholar who's an academic in a university institution, and he says he doesn't understand rent. It's a mystery, and that's the title of that section. And you all go away and think Mr. Piketty's a great guy because he's against the 1%. And he is playing into the hands of the very system that he says he wants to change. We've had 2 revolutions, bloody revolutions in the 20th century, and they've reverted back to a crude form of capitalism because the narrative that those violent revolutionaries had in their heads couldn't work. There were 2 peaceful revolutions, revolutions of the mind in the 20th century in this country. The first one nearly worked. It was the First World War that stopped it. The second one was the 10-year window of opportunity after 1945. We are now in the process of unpicking that experiment. The narrative is wrong. So you ask me, who am I? I'm a nobody. I just want to change the course of history. unless we find a way to talk about history and about the reality in a way that affects people and mobilizes people, and that includes the middle class homeowner, we ain't going nowhere.
Thank you.